So on the podcast, we've talked about a lot of good albums, a lot of good songs, a lot of good artists, but we're going to kind of switch it up for today, and we're going to be talking about our most disappointing album of the year, and we're getting closer to the end of the year, and there's been a lot of releases that we've been happy with, but today we're going to really, shed light on ones that we felt disappointed by and give our reasons behind them. So guys, we're doing a lot of end of the year content here on the podcast. Smash the subscribe button if you have not already. Hit the like button so this video gets to more people, and let us know in the comment section which album was the most disappointing for you, because there's been a bunch. Not only that, guys, but we have a major award show taking place on December 29th. Mark it in your calendars. It's going to be massive. It's going to be a full-blown live stream. So Lou, also take us to some news that we have right now.
Yes, we have a major announcement. So we're actually going to be doing live album reactions on our Patreon. The link is available in the description, and it's starting this week on Friday for Roddy Ricch's new album, Live Life Fast. It's going to be a full-blown live stream where you guys can actually come in, bump the album with us, chat with us as we're listening to it. And this is going to be happening on the weekly. Every time there's a new album, Fridays technically at midnight, we'll be actually listening to albums with you guys, and then you'll have access to the whole catalog, which is part of the reaction tier. So check that out if it interests you. Super exciting, bro, to actually be doing this, right?
Absolutely. It's always awesome doing reactions, and we've been waiting to do this for a while, but let's actually get into this episode now. So, you brought 3 albums, I brought 3 albums. Let's go through this list, and let's actually see what ends up being our number 1. So, Lou, make me your first album that really disappointed you this year.
First of all, guys, I just want to say that, this isn't a worst albums list of the year. These are albums that we had expectations for, and when we got the final product, it kind of fell flat. So, one of them that's kind of in contention for me would be Polo G's Hall of Fame, and the singles that he actually put out in anticipation to this album were all pretty solid. You had Gang Gang featuring Lil Wayne. You also had Rap Star, and the rollout seemed pretty efficient. I liked it a lot, and then we got the finished product, and I saw that conscious trap music that Polo G is known for and has done really well on albums like The GOAT wasn't really as prominent on this new album. And apart from that, a big criticism from the fans on his previous work was the production and how stagnant it was, where he kind of focused on these piano-driven productions. But with this album, it's as if he swapped out the piano stuff for a lot of cheap-sounding guitar riffs that led the instrumental. So there was no real evolution into Polo G's sound, and the production, again, was seriously lacking, so that's one that really disappointed me, man.
I'm on the same list with you, actually. I have this album on my list, so I'll incorporate it with you. Listen, I had a lot of high expectations for Hall of Fame because Die Legend was a fantastic project. His debut was absolutely ridiculous. Well, debut, I think it's considered more of a mixtape. And then after that, The GOAT was actually really nice. And then what you're getting with this is, it sounds mediocre. That's what I feel as if this album stands for. And it's no knock at Polo G. It's just how many times are you going to hear him do this over again? And not only that, but there's low-key conflicting content within the whole track list, and you're kind of wondering what's the actual message that's being trying to portray through here, because he is known for his conscious rapping. He's a great rapper, but it just didn't feel like it was delivered. Plus, there was so many different producers that worked on this that necessarily didn't help the vision of this project. Polo G needs to link up with one producer to be able to craft his sound, and on this, what are you getting? You're low-key getting YouTube beats. That's at least what I've been getting out of this track list. So yes, Hall of Fame is my 3rd album. I'll put it with Lou's, but I'll go on to another album that really disappointed me, and it was CLB this year. And I said this was a good album with the reviews out. I speak highly about this album, but to be honest with you, it's we had such high expectations, especially if you were with us with our rollout videos, that it felt it didn't live up to my expectations when I went into the listen. I mean, there's too much filler in here. There's too many songs that I don't necessarily go through over again. There's not really necessarily too many top tier Drizzy songs that you'd even see on, let's say Scorpion for that matter. And just for the most part, it felt like I don't know how to say it. It was just,
it felt kind of uninspired.
It felt kind of uninspired because there's not much going on anymore. It felt like the same album that you've gotten over and over again. So that's how I feel
guys,
about CLB.
just the reason why we're kind of talking about this, and I'll get to it in a second, is just, we were so excited going into this album, probably maybe the most hyped we've been besides Donda this year for album releases, but we literally had champagne in the studio. We were sipping on that while listening to champagne poetry. And that's another thing too, is that you had an amazing intro like champagne poetry, expecting greatness for the rest of the fucking album, and then as you go through the songs, you realize,
where's this going?
There's quite some misses, but before I move on to that, I want to talk about the second one that almost made it as my most disappointing, and that was Pop Smoke's Faith album, which is the second posthumous album. And to me, this was super disappointing just because that first Pop Smoke posthumous album, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, had Pop Smoke's vision represented throughout the project, and it also had 50 Cent handling it with a lot of care and attention to detail. But with this one, it was just a totally different sentiment. And the first major red fucking flag for me was when I saw that track list and I saw all these features and I counted the features and I'm like, okay, there's 21 features on this track list, but there's only 20 songs, meaning that there's more features, there's more feature performances than Pop Smoke performances on a Pop Smoke album. And to me, right away, it raises the question of like, a lot of Pop Smoke's best songs, like Christopher Walking, Better Have Your Gun, these are solo Pop Smoke songs. So how the fuck are you going to have a full album where it's pretty much the music industry featuring Pop Smoke? So how did you feel about it? Because for myself, this album checks the box of every popular trope about rap albums in the streaming era going wrong. 20 plus song track list, soulless features just for the marketing of the album, and a lack of overall cohesion to it.
Well, the cohesion was really not well executed on this album, and I think it's because there was probably so many different people working on this. Like, how are you going to have that many features on a project and really see it work? Like, it doesn't necessarily happen. And the thing is that, you know, Pop Smoke was there because like he had a say and a vision in the first posthumous release. And this one was like, okay, you guys want to release a posthumous project. That's not a problem. It's no issue, but like, you guys have to execute it properly because this guy has an incredible legacy. And to be honest with you, it's like, how are you going to take this album and compare it to the rest of his projects? You can't. It was really that, you know, that poorly executed for me. But
well, you know what it is though? It's because the verses sounded unfinished, bro. At the end of the day,
it was that too. It's like, how many verses are you going to pick and plug and put onto? Even some people from his camp were speaking out about it. Like, I don't think anyone liked this album for the most part, and it's definitely probably a forgettable moment this year. It's probably one of my biggest, at least. But listen, I'll move on to my biggest disappointment as far as an album goes this year, and it was Migos with Culture 3.
Really? That's the biggest?
That's my biggest disappointment, and it's because I think I had way too much, you know, hope for them to be able to recapture that culture essence. And I knew that it wouldn't be able to be done. Like, I knew that was the factor. But going into this, I'm like, okay, I could still get bangers for them. I could still get a coherent album. I want to hear what's happening. I want to know what's going on. And you hear the modern day snippet. Bro, that was absolutely fantastic, where Quavo was on the jet ski.
Yeah.
And then you end up getting a single like Avalanche. What's going on now? You know, like this is really shaping up to be two fantastic songs that are going to be featured on this album. Besides Malibu and a couple of other songs, man. Like, I haven't revisited this project, nowhere near as much as I should have been. And it's because it's way too bloated. There's way too many songs that don't deserve any playtime on this track list. And the situation with Culture 2 was, it sounded there was not much effort going into that.
A lot of filler there.
There was a lot of filler there too, but people were like, you know, like, what's going on in this? Like, you guys deliver like 45-second verses and that's it, and lazy hooks. On this one, it felt like there was too much. Like, it felt like there was just really too much bloat within it. And I mean, man, I was just so disappointed because I wanted to see them have that major return, especially for, you know, how long we were waiting for the album. That there was so many teases. At one point that was supposed to come out in March, never ended up happening. There was there was all kinds of different rumors. It was also a bit of a sloppy rollout. So overall, like, it was just a disappointing moment this year, but I still take songs out of it.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely bangers, but I just think that, like, at the end of the day, when Migos exploded onto the scene, it was very refreshing. They had this triplet flow that nobody had heard for a long time. And the fact that they were this rap trio that had so much chemistry, like, that was kind of unheard of at that moment. And they just dominated the trap scene. But now, 3 albums in, with no real innovation in sound or change of direction, it's only normal that there's not going to be as much of a demand for the music. So, yeah, I agree with you, bro. It was kind of disappointing. Wasn't in my top 3, let's say, because I didn't have the highest of hopes to begin with. But my most disappointing album of the year, despite me thinking that it is a good album, is Drake's Certified Lover Boy. And that's because I had the highest expectations and the lowest return, to be honest with you. And I mean, to me, going into this album beforehand, I was getting some of Drake's best verses of his entire career on songs like BB King Freestyle, on songs like Lemon Pepper Freestyle. All of his performances on Dark Lane demo tapes were fucking top caliber, and it sounded like his pen game was really evolving. And then I got CLB, and it ended up being an album that leaned more into R&B. And the problem with me is that Drake took this formula that he's done on previous albums and just said, fuck it, let me rinse and repeat. And it even comes down to the songs on this album, because take, for example, Fountains. That's like the one dance of the album. Take a song like You Only Live Twice. It's a part 2 of the motto. Like literally down to the individual songs, he's kind of recreating and trying to recapture what he's done before. And listen, bro, besides moments of brilliance like Fair Trade, Champagne Poetry, and a couple of other ones, it just doesn't hold up like that.
No, it didn't stick. And I also think it was also the lack of Boy Wonder. There's not a single Boy Wonder song on here. And if you go through all of Boy Wonder's credits and most of Drake's biggest hits, it's all done by him, and you were missing that essence within the project. And I also think that, as much as I love Champagne Poetry, it was a part 2 to Tuscan Leather.
Yeah.
Love All, like low-key, that was the wrong beat for Jay-Z.
Facts.
Knife Talk didn't necessarily have anything to do with that track list. I get it. It might be a party banger, but then again, like, just had nothing to do with the project.
Also, on Scorpion, he said, I'll never do another double album again because he thought that it was too long at 25 songs, but then Certified Lover Boy is 21 songs, only 4 songs less.
No, it was too long of a track list as well. And 7 a.m. on Bridle Path, I get it. It's a good song, but it's nowhere near the caliber of 5 a.m. in Toronto or 4 p.m. in Calabasas. And I understand that comparison is the Joy Killer, but...
Killer of Joy, yeah.
The Killer of Joy, my bad. Shit. But what I'm trying to say is that you kind of have to hold someone to his standards. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, when you go into an album experience, you're like, this is like what I'm looking for. And it was genuinely something I didn't get this year too. So I agree with you. That was definitely something that I had to make my list, and I incorporated on it at number 2 because I thought it was definitely a major disappointment this year.
Yeah, and it's also just because Drake's catalog is pretty solid. It's kind of underrated, and this album kind of falls towards the latter end of it. It's kind of on the lower side of things, and it felt like Drake was on cruise control and he was putting in minimal effort. But at the end of the day, to me, it's the most disappointing because of how high my hopes were for the album, but it's nowhere near the worst album of the year. It still has its moments. But listen, guys, let us know in the comments what your most disappointing album of 2021 is. We're always down to have the conversation with you guys. And as we mentioned earlier, a lot of end of the year content coming your way, such as our awards show coming on the last week of December 29th. We'll be having categories such as Best Rap Song, Best Rap Feature, and so much more. Not only that, this Friday, our first live album reaction on the Patreon to Roddy Ricch's new album, Live Life Fast. You don't want to miss it. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching the full video, and if you're new to NFR, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as we'll be keeping you guys updated with the latest album releases in terms of update videos, album reviews, and our own original series on the weekly. And we also have our Patreon plan available in the description below, where you can access weekly bonus content and also access to our Discord. So be sure to check out all of that, and we'll catch you in the next one.